Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Scotty's Hobbies. Y'all all seen my IR60 build that I built from scratch. It's been down for almost a month now because my Injora ESC shorted and it burnt out the ESC and it burnt out my receiver. So I took the ESC apart, and it was a manufacturing flaw. So if you guys are using the Injora ESC for the Fat Viper, you can pop that plastic cover off. Look at the wiring that's on the board. What's happening is they're not pre-tinning the wires and the board before they solder, and so then you have frays of wire that cross over time, and then it shorts. So if you got a brand new one, you can take the cap off and you can straighten up the wires with a toothpick and put a little solder on it, and you should be fine. They're going to send me a new ESC, but I haven't got it yet. So what I did is I wanted to experiment with a cheaper ESC. So I found a Am32, it's just how I looked it up, Am32 30 amp ESC off of eBay, 20 bucks. I'm going to turn the camera around, I'm going to show you what I did. So I was redoing my build and I wanted to make it smaller, lighter, and all that stuff. So I use a Spectrum transmitter receiver. So this is the SR215 receiver. So this is just a plastic box. I took the electronics out of it, and so then I also cut the pins off of it, and then I soldered the wires directly to the board. So then I'll heat shrink that, and then I'll have a smaller footprint inside the truck. I'm gonna flip the camera around and kind of show you what I'm talking about. I've got everything soldered up and I've tested it, so I know how to move forward and backwards, but I haven't had it out on the track. So we're going to talk about this a little bit because it requires some wiring and it requires some soldering. And I'm running the Ramp Crab crawler servo, which is 2S, is what they say. Technically that's not true. Technically it only uses one cell of 2S. Okay, we're going to talk about that. So when you have the Ramp Crab crawler servo, you've got a plug that goes to your balance port of your 2S battery. My truck can run 3S, so I made an adapter to use one cell from 3S, so I can run 3S or 2S in my truck without any problems. So let me flip the camera around. I don't have everything in place. I left it loose so we can look at it and talk about it. Okay. So this is what I was talking about on my receiver. This is what was in that box right there. So what I did is I cut the pins. I took the pins out. The top, or the port to the left there, that's your sensing wire. The middle one is your voltage, and then the bottom wire, or the far right wire, is your ground. Now here's the trick. If you're going to run 3S on this truck with the Ramp Crab servo, and you want to have 3S power on the motor, then you have to incorporate a common ground. Otherwise the steering won't work. So what we do is we take the ground from this receiver, which is also grounded to this ESC, and then it's also grounded to this plug which goes to the balance port. That allows a complete grounded circuit from my servo to my balance port and then back to my ESC. Because if we don't share a common on the ESC from here to here and to the servo, then you won't be able to steer it. So that's the only modification you got to make to do that. And then you got to make an adapter plug, which I have on this battery right here. So that's an adapter that allows you to go from 2S to up to 4S. So the red wire, let's look at this plug-in. So this is a plug-in for the servo that it comes with. You got a red and a black. Now, on the balance port, let me find it. On this balance port right here, if you'll see, you got, let me flip this over so it's even. You got a red on the left, and all the rest are black. So that is, the red is a cell, the next one is a cell, the next one is a cell, but the far right one is a ground, okay? So all you need is any one of the first three plus a ground. I like using red and the ground because they're furthest apart. If you look at this battery tester, right here, it tells you that number 1 pin up there, or the top pin, is a ground. And then you go backwards on your cells. So this plugs into that this way with these tabs on top. Now, this is what you'll see. It's purple. It's got a capacitor on this end. All the wires are already soldered on it. I had to put this connector on it because this is the type of connector I use for my batteries. I change them all over to the same thing. So my 2S and my 3S all have that same connector on it. So now my footprint is, this is the ESC now, and this is the receiver. And then my battery go back here. Okay, so I'm going to test this out probably this weekend, and we'll see how well it does. This is my first time doing one of these universal ESCs on a truck. I've done them on my racing drones plenty of times. Most of these ESCs that you find for 20 bucks, they'll come with the wires and everything on them, but you'll have to put your own plug on there. Now here's the thing, all of these companies that are selling these ESCs, they're trying to trick you. So they sell on the same link a ESC and a programming module. They make it look like you get both. You do not. Your email will even say that you got an ESC. Your email will say your ESC is on the way. Your email will talk nothing about anything but the ESC. But when you get it, it'll be this daggone programming chip. Let's see here. See if you can see that. It's just a, there you go. It's a programming chip. That's all it is. Now, the reason why they do that is to trick you, but it really delays your time on getting ESC. It took me a month to get this ESC, about 3 weeks, because the thing that sent me first was wrong. So when you look at that ESC, it'll be purple. It'll say ESC with capacitor. It'll say all that stuff. But when you go down on the page, there's a link, a drop down, and you have to select ESC because it defaults to the programmer. It don't tell you that, and when you click purchase, it tells you that you ordered the ESC, and when you get your emails, everything talks about the ESC. But when it arrives, if you don't hit that drop down and select ESC, you'll get the programmer. And I chewed them out. I went round and round, email. It's a waste of time. I went ahead and ordered from them again because it was the only people I could find that had them. So 20 bucks is better than 45 bucks. It's already working. I know it's going to move the truck back and forth. I'm not going to program this one because I know a lot of people aren't going to do that. Now, I may get another one and program it just because I'm used to programming them. The programming is probably going to look at what size battery you're using, when you want the voltage to cut off, and that kind of thing, because these batteries are so critical on voltage. So that's probably what the program has to do with. But I don't really need no bandwidth controls because I can do all that on my transmitter. So anyway, I'm glad to, I'll be honest with you, man, I've been pretty mad about not having this truck going. It's my favorite truck. I've got my CR18 Pro, but if I'm being completely honest, I don't drive it that much. I just don't enjoy it like I do the one that I built. I will show you a trick though real quick. If you have a truck that uses these pins to pin the bodies on, we'll use some magnets on the bottom side. That way you've always got a place for your pins when you pull them. That way you're not losing your pins. So, because I done already lost some pins, I had to already order a bag of them. And I even got a different body for that truck. I don't know. I'm struggling enjoying this CR18 Pro. There's nothing wrong with it, but I'm struggling enjoying it. It's about the same size as my 24 scale, but it's because I stretched it out to a Gladiator and I got wider axles on it. I've done, modified it from top to bottom. And I got a new build I'm getting ready. I haven't ordered this stuff yet, but I got a really awesome build getting ready to come up pretty soon. So anyway, I'll show y'all my truck. This is what it looks like. It's pretty scratched up now. It's got the ugly AF chassis. It's got the flex blades on it right here. That will give you extra flex, Love those flex blades. I got a custom modification I'm gonna do on the next build. It's gonna be the same frame. I don't know if I'm gonna use these flex blades. I'm thinking about building some custom ones. So anyway, I'm gonna mess with this thing tonight, maybe tomorrow. Get it cleaned up, get the battery back in it, and then hopefully get it back on the course, because I've been chomping at the bit to get it back on the track. Anyway, if you got any questions, drop them in the comments. Like and subscribe if you don't mind. If you can solder, which I recommend everybody learns how to solder, and I've got a soldering iron right here. It's still hot, so I'm gonna be careful. I'm gonna show you what it looks like. This was called a TS100. Okay, it's real small, about the size of a magic marker. Okay, it's got a disconnecting. You can disconnect the cable from it. It's got a USB plug-in. Multiple power sources on this. You can actually run this soldering iron off of a battery, so you can plug, a battery like this into that soldering iron. So if you're out the track, whatever, it's not a big deal for driving trucks. But when we race drones, a lot of times we were breaking arms, and when you broke an arm, you had to change the whole arm. You had to unsolder the wires for the motor and all that kind of stuff, and put the motor back on, arm back on, and stuff. So we had those soldering irons, and which brings me to a point that I need to mention. Let me flip this camera. So here's my wires for the motor. Okay, now that Fat Viper comes with a plug on it. Well, I cut the plug off. Here it is right here. This is the plug. That's what used to plug into the ESC. This ESC don't have the plug. You could put one on there if you want to, but you don't need it. This motor, you just put each wire on the pad and solder it on there. So here's where it used to go. You could cut this white plug off and just solder each wire onto each one of these terminals, and it would do the same thing. The plug is for convenience. This ESC is the Injora ESC. After it shorted, I thought I was going to be able to fix it, and I went through there and cleaned up all the wiring and resoldered everything, but it was already fried. So it was an expensive failure. But this is what the wiring looks like inside. This is after I have repaired it. Those wires were all touching inside, and the wires that were touching, I had voltage, touch, and sensing over going to my receiver, which shorted my receiver, which was a $60 receiver, and my ESC, which is, $50. So it was pretty aggravating. So that's why I wanted to experiment with these generic ESCs. So you just have to look them up. It's Am32 bit for rock crawling, for mini rock crawling when you look them up. And then I'm going to do a little video of soldering, because I got a blank ESC coming in, and I'm going to do a little video on soldering so that y'all can be comfortable with soldering, and so y'all can know how to solder without, a lot of you probably already do, but if you don't, I want to show you how to solder where you don't have the problems that Injora is having right now with that ESC. And I may even send them a video to, because it's not really them. I mean, they're buying these ESCs put together, I'm sure. They're not sitting over there in their warehouse soldering these things up. So I need to send them a video of how those need to be so that they can address that with whoever's putting theirs together. So we quit having these things shorting out, because they're not replacing my $60 receiver. They're just replacing my ESC. Anyway, thanks for coming by Scotty's Hobbies. I got a video where I put my SCX Stretch 24 custom build up against my CR18 Pro stock. I've already broke the other drive shaft in that, by the way. So it's got the front drive shaft I had to replace with a steel one, and now I got to replace the back one. Those drive shafts are just crap for that motor. The motor's too big for the drive shaft. Not a big deal. It's just one of those things you need to know when you buy that truck. You need to order drive shafts. So I put them on the track with the CR18 Pro being stock, and with my build being built. My build did a little better. There were some things that the CR18 Pro did better, but it's not as a joy to drive as the one I built. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. I hope to see you again. Put some comments in there if you got any questions about this soldering or about how I took this apart, or any questions whatsoever. I'll try to answer them. And then hopefully I'll have a video up real soon about how the truck performs with this new ESC, which is upgraded, which I do recommend, you know, because I think the Injora one's like 25 amp. This one's like 30 amp, and you can get them on up. But as you're adding weight to them, you might need a little bit bigger ESC. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Catch you on the next one.